Hey everybody! It's
Hello.
Talking Initiative! And it's apparently
Yay.
the worst one in the
The
world.
one you've all been waiting for.
You can all be sad with us in a public space now.
This is a rough.
So, everybody, hi, I'm Drew Tillman. I played Ferguson, and I am consoling myself with whiskey tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to cut in front of Josh and say that I'm Morgan and I played Roz or Rosalie, and I'm consoling myself with Dunkin' Donuts coffee because it's free donut day.
It is free
And
donut day.
I'll cut back in and say hi. I'm Josh Perault, and I'm your DM that everyone's kind of mad at right now. And I am consoling myself and all of you with a Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Hi, I'm Bucky. I play Ven, and I'm committed to this joke at this point now.
Okay.
I don't know what
Alright.
joke you're committed to.
I was frozen.
Oh, okay. I was fiddling with Twitch
Okay,
things,
Elsa, let it go.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about episodes 33 and 34, and everyone's gonna be sad, and Josh is gonna get made to feel bad for once in his life.
Side note, we should say this every single time. If you did not listen to the episodes yet,
You shouldn't
as
be
much
here.
as we love you here, don't be
This
here.
is very particular for this one. If you have not listened to the episode yet, you might want to do that and come back
Yeah,
to this
we
later.
had a big doozy of an episode.
We had a big doozy,
Yeah.
a big poopsie
last
of an
talking
episode.
initiative, I claimed we were entering our arc 3, and we are definitely.
You have arrived.
This is the bad point in the story where everyone's sad and everyone hates everything. But let's start with the slightly happier episode 33, in which I just want to point
Delightful.
out it was so great.
Delightful.
Ferguson went to take a bath, and then apparently just was. You guys loved him so much that he was just in your heads talking to you the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just did not
We
leave.
had a great PI adventure, a plucky little Scooby-Doo start, and it was magical, and there was great music choices by Bucky in the editing process.
Thanks.
It was
both
lovely for both episodes, yes. So it was delightful. It was delightful.
It was.
And then it was not so delightful.
Yeah, you all had a very fun adventure where you got
Yeah.
to relive some Arsene and Kent moments.
Yep.
There was some Zone of Truth being cast.
Yep.
There was some interrogations. There was.
That was 32 with the Zone of Truth and everything.
Was it?
33 started with you guys leaving the church, picking up Ferguson and going to the coffin maker's house.
Yep. So there was some
Alright.
delightful intimidation attempts.
There was some intimidation. There was some
Oh.
suggestions.
There was some running into doors.
There was.
Oh yes,
We
it
had
was.
There
Yeah.
was some probable elder abuse by us.
I'm gonna
and
say, does
some-
that really count in Barovia? They're not real people.
I mean, it counts.
That one was one of the real people.
It's
Okay, make me feel bad, damn it.
We,
You're the one who's supposed to feel
Done.
bad tonight.
He's already done that.
we definitely vox machina that situation in which we were just like, oh, you don't want to let us into your home? Cool. We'll just bust our way in and
We're
make you
just-
feel
We're
bad,
just here, so
intimidate you, and then shove you out of your own home.
yeah. And that was a happier time though. You know, we all felt
Those are good times. Those were good times.
yeah, those were good times.
And then there was some bad times.
And then it got real. It got real.
Which actually, before we get into the it got real part and why it got real, I just want to say, watching the Discord and the Twitch, or not the Twitch, the Twitter, as 34 was being listened to, was a rolling stream of just, I started 34. What the fuck?
Yeah, I was paying immense attention to timestamps because as soon as someone said they started, I waited like about 33 minutes for them to go, "What the hell?" and then another like
Wait.
12 minutes.
Yep.
Hey.
It starts with the wait. Oh no.
Thank you,
And then
Volley.
it's like, oh no.
Yeah, I said it, but I really want to say thank you again to Vali, who is behind the scenes currently, and she built a TI command for all of our
look at that.
handles.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Also because Nick is mentioned in there. Nick wanted to be here tonight. He's unfortunately stuck at work.
Yeah, it's real sad, but he
definitely wanted to be here. He says hi.
yeah. If we get to questions, because tonight questions are gonna take a little bit of a backseat because 34 was apparently such a huge deal. We can text him questions and see if he responds, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, 34 was super sad and depressing, and I just want to say publicly, Josh, why did I not get to roll Vampire Hunter lore?
Well, you did roll some vampire lore, which told you that sunlight would help.
Fair. Let me
but-
rephrase. Why did my long and illustrious career as a monster hunter go, don't do that. Don't do that.
I don't know. I mentioned 6 vampires. That is a point of common sense there.
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
I mean, the outcome would have been similar, because no matter what you had said, I will tell you right now, Ferguson would have gone upstairs and fought fucking vampires and died. Just what happened.
I would like to quote, why don't you just let me go upstairs and kill all these vampires like you know I can? Hubris!
Listen,
Hubris!
Ferguson's the kind of person who is always the most dangerous person in the room, even if it's not true. In his head.
You know what? Actually, that's fair because he is the most dangerous person in the room, not out of like damage dealing, but in the person most likely to get the party totally fucked.
No, he's the most person likely to give you hepatitis by his blood flying everywhere.
Ferguson will always be the most dangerous person in the room to himself.
Because Ferguson's MO is Leroy Jenkins.
An example of that was in Argon Mustholtz when you just leaped over the railing.
Listen,
and sort of
some people have principles and they abide by those principles, even if they're dumb.
It's true. But that was definitely one of those moments where I really couldn't say anything as a DM, but I could just use that NPC as much as possible.
I mean,
just kind of the best.
Yeah, it is what it is, and it was 6 months ago, and I was very, very upset the next day because I very much enjoyed Ferguson. But I was more upset because of Roz dying than Ferguson.
I had just really clicked into her accent. Yeah, and I've had a lot of time to think about it as well because it was traumatic, and just some behind the scenes there was we got into that room and there was the we're gonna find out about Ferguson being not or evilly aligned, and then once the fight actually started, the whole mood of when we were recording tanked. We all got very quiet and we were all just stressed because we all suddenly realized this is going very badly for us. And it became that recording was actually much shorter, I think, than how we normally record, because it from the moment for when we were things will be fine to things are very bad was maybe 10 minutes. So it was really horrifying for everybody involved. But having given the time, and I know everybody expected this to be a let's yell at Josh moment.
Yeah, it's not really.
It's not really. Josh did try to warn us as much as possible that hey, you can just go get the bones that you need and bounce. There are 6 vampires spawn in there you should probably not tangle with. I'm going to say that 4 times.
Well, here's my one thing about that. And this is not, again, I'm not blaming Josh. It happened.
No.
I've lost enough characters that I don't really fucking care anymore. It's like water on a duck's back. But the thing about that is, that was a commoner telling us something. Commoners have 1 hit point. I could sneeze on a commoner and kill them. Them being afraid of something doesn't really translate very well.
They're afraid of rats.
That's why I
Rats kill people. Indeed.
From a DM chair point of view of how I tried to circumvent that, because I realized that as well. That of course everyone's going to be terrified of everything. Of just mentioning exactly how many there were and mentioning that they were vampires. I was hoping that the lore element would probably initiate, but that was unfortunately just not as successful as I wanted.
This is a call out for both Drew and Josh. Or not Josh. This is a call out for Bucky and Drew because there was a small amount of metagaming that happened in this session where they were like, things will be fine because I think I know the creature level of these vampires spawn because they had just fought one. And there was a misunderstanding of potentially how high level those were. So it was a combination of things. It was very much a combination of a party who we thought we were like level 7 and we were going to rock some shit. We also had a very fundamental misunderstanding of what sunlight was going to do.
That's true.
And there were just some very, like, if it had been any other situation, they were small mess ups that would not have been so bad, except they all happened at once. Yeah. So it was catastrophic. I goofed because I should have used my channel divinity not to create extra damage, but to push them away, to do turn undead. And I did not do that because I thought I was going to be able to do more damage at the other situation. So I messed up.
That's really on Bucky and myself because we went in very, very blasé. And I'm not going to say Nick because Nick's new, and Bucky and I are, well, we're
seasoned players.
We're seasoned players, so we're just like, yeah, it's whatever. So Nick and you were both like, yeah, it's whatever. These people who've played before are not worried about it.
Yeah, well, that's how I came out of it later, where I was like, well, Bucky and Drew seemed to think everything was going to be fine. I was misled.
Well, we did think that.
Right. So there were just, I mean, the fact that we didn't quite understand about the sunlight thing. I actually had an opportunity to cast Sanctuary on myself at one point, and I think I elected to try and do some healing. There was just, everybody got to a point where we were all such like freaking out about potentially completely wiping out the party that I think we just started not to think, and we're just starting to react.
Yeah, so, definitely. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
I just realized I did not do a thing that I should have. Keep talking. I'm going to vanish for a second.
Okay.
I'm just literally going to turn my video and mic off for like 1 second.
Okay. So while Drew, I mean, what can we make up about Drew right now that he's doing? He's darning socks. He is doing something inappropriate for Twitch stream. He is,
I hear you speculating. And did you say I was putting on pants? Never.
No pants.
Oh,
please.
No, I'm not wearing pants.
Of course not. We're streaming live.
Yeah, no. I actually realized I left my AC on.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. Not one of you pointed it out to me.
But Drew, there are other ways to go. I realize I didn't do a thing. I'm going to mute my audio and video
Morgan,
for a minute.
How long have you known me?
Vanish. A long time now.
Have I ever not been vague when being vague is funny?
That's a very good point.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were mentioning the sun. I just wanted to point something out with that. That the sunlight thing is nothing that I think any of you could have nailed down unless you made the leap to go, Strahd's realm, he's a vampire, he should be safe. Without that kind of jump, there would have been nothing your characters would have been able to do to know that information without testing.
Fair.
There was no situation that arose that allowed us to be able to test that because when we saw Strahd, it was nighttime.
Yeah. I mean, again, it was not at the moment, but it was a fun fight because it was one of those fights that, like, I feel if we had made different choices, we may have had not beaten them all, but gotten out alive if we had made better choices and had the moment to run the fuck away. We didn't, but it was still like, it's one of those fights that, like, you know, it was tough and it was bad, but, like, you know, like, all right, it was still a fun fight, and there are some questions that I actually do want to go over because they relate directly to this episode. So I do want to talk about those, but those are like top priority. We'll get to those. I'm trying not to answer some of them.
I would love to ask people, like, when you give us Talking Initiative questions, we give episode-specific questions. That would be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
We like questions as well, but since we're only talking about 2 episodes at a time, ask questions about those first.
Yeah, those. If you ask an episode-specific question, we will always put that first.
Priority.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a good fight. It was well structured. We just made all the bad mistakes, which happens.
And what I will say is that this was a very defining moment for our party and for the campaign and for our podcast. It was a very big moment of like, well, shit, like, what do we do now? I mean, Drew's died like 12 times in this podcast, but it was, I think, the first time that it like this.
Do not agree 12, Bucky. I swear to God.
I
Nope.
don't have 12 fingers.
Ferguson was the longest running character of Drew's in the podcast. So it was the most developed. It was the most time we'd had with him. And we just found out something really cool and interesting about him. And there was so much stuff good, and it ended. And you guys just really got introduced to Roz, and we're starting to get some more information about her. It's why I tried to put more information or do little sneaky peek things for the mailbag episodes, because I wanted you to get a little bit more depth into this person before you lost her. So it was a defining moment for us all to go, okay, well, how do we proceed? And like, this completely changes the direction of where the story was going. It completely changes the direction of where our character development was going. So it was a Will dying on the good wife kind of moment for our podcast, in that it completely changed the game. So it sucks for Drew and I, because we both had characters that we really liked, and Roz was my first one, and I loved her, and I would have liked to do more with her, but it really did allow us to do some really cool things for progression and how we got to be creative with something we've been doing for a while.
Yeah, and also the backstory you were just talking about.
I actually wanted to go in that.
Questions, the math sequence.
That was recorded after we recorded the episode, or after the session that ended in 33, or was it where 34 ended?
It was right. It was right before the beginning of 34 and right at the tail of 33. Everyone got off the call.
Yeah, and then we talked about it, and then it was the next, and then it went in on 34. Yeah, it was a moment, because I actually want to talk about that. Like, Josh and I planned Ferguson to be this character that Strahd brought back to life specifically to fuck with the party and get Callista back in the house.
I messed up. It's end of 32 before 33.
Okay. I knew we recorded after everyone left the call. I just couldn't remember the exact session we were on.
Yep.
Prior to the fight.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing.
I remember that because I walked downstairs after that recording ended, and I heard you guys recording, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to listen.
Yeah, when we edited the episode, even John didn't hear it beforehand, because after he passed me 34, that's when I cut in our discussion. Yeah. Listening to that episode as a QC was the first time anybody else heard that conversation.
And it was because, like I said, Strahd brought Ferguson back to fuck with them and get them back into the house. And as we planned him and we talked about him and we talked about his backstory and stuff, I told Josh, I was like, I don't know exactly how I'm going to play it, but I'm going to let them kind of guide that. And if they, based on what they do, Ferguson may literally just change sides, which is honestly where I was headed. Like, Ferguson would have been like, oh, these guys are not going to just get themselves killed. They're not just fodder. Let's see what happens.
He had a crush on Kent.
Ferguson had a crush on everybody. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And to also mention that Abraham was traded out for Ferguson for 2 reasons. I actually went to Drew and asked him, like, because everyone's reaction to Abraham was a little, like, in the podcast itself, was a little meh. And I know Donna was, like, straight up hating Abraham real bad. So I went to Drew and had the idea of, like, do you want to change characters? It's okay if you don't, but if you do, I have a fun thing.
Let me tell you, though, I probably would have gotten Abraham murdered at some point if this didn't happen, because while I enjoyed him for the fact that it really annoyed Donna, the whole joke was I made a cleric that was a like televangelist. Like he was supposed to be loud and obnoxious and kind of like goofy, or not goofy, but like kind of like very eccentric and in your face. And while I really liked the concept, it just didn't have enough like meat on it to like really go that long. And by the time Josh came to me, I was kind of like, yeah, I'll still play him, but I felt it would have gotten into more sort of like what I did with Ferguson, but it would have been very out of character.
Yeah, I also am glad that Abraham was before my time, because when I was catching up on Taking Initiative episodes before I joined the podcast, I texted Josh and was like, I hate this.
To be fair, you were supposed to hate him. No, he was not supposed to be likable.
Yeah, and that's very fair. But
mission accomplished.
Yeah, very, very mission accomplished. You did a very good job of that, because I was just like, how long is Ferguson? Is Ferguson the thing? And then I got past not Ferguson. I'm sorry, Abraham. And I was like, oh, thank God. So yeah, Abraham is not loved.
Yeah. Also, Kitty Cat, I'm going to break your heart even more, because I'm going to tell you the rough outline of Ferguson's backstory, just to make everyone extra sad. Ferguson's backstory was that as a child, his village was attacked by monsters. Was never fully formed on that. Then he was found by the Order, brought up, eventually decided they were his family, decided to fight monsters with them. The Order he was with died when he was a teenager, went to another Order as a sole survivor, pretty much decided that all people were not as good as him, and they were cannon fodder. Met a woman, fell in love, she was pregnant, they all died. Again, it was just... He had a whole life of everybody getting murdered. And then he eventually found his way to Barovia, because his whole thing was, I need power. If I have power, I can stop everything. Because he generally, while he was radiated evil, because he was a bad person, he was a bad person for the reason of, if I am the worst thing out there, other people will be okay. And he came to find more power, and then eventually was killed by Strahd himself in the Death House, and then brought back.
Very specifically, as we mentioned this in some bonus content stuff, which we'll release, is something we recorded after episode 34 of us just venting, that the body in the Death House, right before the One Must Die room that Callista took the gold ring off of, was Ferguson.
Yep. Callista had Ferguson's last remaining possession, other than his nifty sword.
Yeah, that won't be able to come back up in story or in canon. That's why I'm kind of saying that now.
But it was enjoyable. I liked the backstory we made for him. I liked that I left him open so he could go one way or the other. I had a lot of really fun playing him. And I'm sad that this happened. Honestly, first character death since college that I actually have any actual feelings about.
Damn.
So, I mean, as I said in the Discord, my first RPG was Call of Cthulhu. And even though we played fast and loose with the rules, I lost about 8 characters in 3 years.
Yeah, that kind of primes you for it.
Yeah, it was kind of just like...
That just means you're playing the game, though.
I mean, in Call of Cthulhu, you're just playing the game. That's just what it is. I had one character make it 3 years, who became basically a legend in the game. Everyone else died within half hour of a session starting.
Yikes.
It's a good track record.
Yeah.
Do you want to get to some of the questions about the episode in particular? Does anyone else have anything else?
Before we do this, do you want to talk about Roz's backstory at all?
Oh, yeah, I can talk about Roz.
I mean, I went through the whole thing about Ferguson, so I...
So, I'm sorry, everybody. This is sad. So Roz's backstory is that she used to be like an adventurer. She started out really young, running around and being a young paladin, and hooked up with this like traveling group, found this very super hot young rogue, and they named Maureen, and they fell in love and went around and traveled and did exploration and did all this like fun like adventure party stuff. But they didn't get into like the adventuring life. They settled down. They got a farm, and they ended up adopting kids from people who needed homes, kids who needed a place to stay. So they were basically like just lesbians on a farm, like adopting kids and goats and animals. But the thing about, they grew old together. Or Maureen did, because Maureen was a human and Roz is a dwarf. So my whole thing about Maureen being the wife is that when Maureen passed, Roz was very lost and very broken in a lot of ways. And so she kind of shut the door on her farm life and went to go travel to basically bounce between her kids and see her grandkids and live a very transient life, because she kind of lost a lot of the joy in her life when Maureen died. The shield is something that I imagine Josh and I spent a lot of time coming up with, the Guardian of Faith spell, and is it Guardian or Shield of Faith?
Guardian of Faith.
Guardian of Faith, yeah.
Guardian of Faith.
Yeah, so we came up with a lot of ideas about that. And we ultimately came on that it was a shield that Maureen stole for her. They were doing some sort of dungeon dive or doing some sort of cave thing. They find the shield when they were young. And Maureen shows up as she was when she was young, when they were an adventuring team. She can still talk to that Maureen. She can still interact with it, but it's not quite the same because it's not the woman she grew old with. It's this younger snapshot version. So sad stuff that we didn't get to go into.
Which, by the way, I love the fact that unrelated, because we knew nothing about our characters beforehand, we both made very sad bullshit stories. Just like, what's the saddest I can be? Wee!
What's the trend? And that was actually something that I wanted to get into a lot, was that she's a paladin of like her goddesses of joy and like love and all this like very gooey stuff that is not very Barovia friendly. And when you meet her, she's still a mom, she's still a grandma, but she's lost a lot of her joy. She's lost a lot of her light. And so part of her thing in Barovia is that she wants to get out so she can go see her grandkids, but she's also struggling very much to reclaim her sense of life. Kat, I would never do a bury your gaze thing. As a fellow queer, I would never do that. So no, that's not something that I would do. I imagine them having a very like wonderful, like flannel-filled lesbian life together.
Very specific flannel. I love it.
Yeah. Nice. Just like the best older lesbian couple that you meet at a farmer's market, and you're like,
interjection. Happy Pride Month.
Yeah, happy Pride
Month. Before we go on, I also want to say, don't fridge characters. I did it in Ferguson's backstory. It's a cheap thing. Just don't do it. Like, don't have characters murdered. The only reason I did it was the whole point of him was everybody has died, and he was the one that gets through, and that's why he sees the world the way he does. But just avoid it. Don't do it. I'm looking at Deadpool 2 right now. Don't do it.
Don't fridge your girlfriends.
No, it's just not worth it. There are better story points to hit that don't leave a character, like, that don't fridge somebody.
Yep.
There are a million.
Okay.
Also, the last thing is, we mentioned this in Discord, but when we were talking about wifey and we were, the voice, we won't go into spoilers, Kat, don't worry.
Yeah.
When we were thinking of wifey, the immediate thing for both of us was like, Kristen DiMercurio. Yeah, she's going to do it.
Yep.
And as soon as I brought the idea to her, she's like, oh, yeah, I'm all about that. I'm going to do that. That's cool.
Yeah. This is in part because
Valanda, no.
What's happening?
Alive characters leave possibilities.
Every queer lady friend I know has a crush on Kristen Dimitriou. And I was like, that's the energy. That's the gay energy that I want in this podcast. So yeah, Kristen was a perfect fit, and she was so gracious and so quick at getting lines to us. So it was really awesome.
And she's on a lot of things, but to check her other work out, check out Ars Paradoxica specifically. The audio drama is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But you can find her on a lot.
It really is. All right, so do we want to get into episode-specific questions?
Episode-specific
I will.
questions.
Let me pull it up. I had to pour alcohol. It's a nice fireside chat tonight.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody, let's get into this.
Here's your fire. It's the sun.
Thank you. I love the sun. Let me find. Okay, so this first one is definitely episode related. This is from Kazel, and he asks two things, really. Two quick things. An extended question, whatever. For Drew, that bath time conversation with Vladimir was the worst move you could have made. Why didn't you just show everyone a picture of your family and say you were 3 days from retirement? For real, though, at what point in the fight did you all realize you were fucked? You took the death like a champ, but still, when did you start slowly tearing up your character sheet? So that one, yeah, it was the worst one, but I also never thought that I was about to kick the metaphorical bucket.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say there is a very foreshadowing line where you're like, I would rather die than do something. And I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, listen to that conversation again after listening to episode 34, and it's just caked with foreshadowing that I wish was written.
Again, with the whole backstory, he honestly thought he was basically immortal. Come on. He was like, what's going to kill me, really? But also, the second part of... You know what? I guess you're right. You're technically correct. Everyone give Bucky a prize for technicalities.
Died by death.
And the second part of when did we realize we were fucked? Well, I realized it the second that I got surrounded by 3 vampire spawn, and Josh was for some reason on the hottest streak of his fucking life that night. Why were you not in Vegas?
I may have mentioned this before. That fight was the only time that I've ever fudged rolls, and I fudged 2 of them. I got rid of 2 natural 20s.
It was awful, and I just swallowed whiskey down the wrong pipe. That was hell. Anyway.
Yeah, it was about as soon as those vampires actually burst out of the coffins and we got surrounded, things were fine-ish, but I really feel like I started to get panicked, but I think honestly Bucky was fine until the sunlight didn't work. And then Bucky got very quiet.
Yep.
I think we all went into trying to get into strategy mode of how do we get out now? It was very shortly into the fight that we realized we were fucked. Mm-hmm. And then by the time Ferguson went down, I was like, well, I have 1 round left because they have 2 attacks each. I'm the only person within their reach. I'm done.
Yep.
So I had 1 round of agonizing. Yeah.
And to follow the last part, when did you start tearing up your character sheet? The answer to that is never.
Never. I still have
every
Roz
character sheet I have played since college. I have more that are other people's character sheets.
Yeah, never. I've never teared up character sheets. The closest thing I got to was tearing up the cards when I did the meat grinder game on stream, because that's what I had to do.
Also, to be fair, these are dead characters with the occasional character sheet of just someone I know is never coming back. But this is pretty much death.
Is that velocity I see?
Yeah.
On the back?
Yeah, that's velocity.
Nice. I will completely admit that I knew that it was really, really deep shit the moment that John said he was going to go to the church to help Nick. Because that is the one side quest in Valakai that I thought would pique your interest, and it's the one I prepped. And I saw it, I'm like, I know them. They'll probably want to go fight vampires. I'm going to just really hope it doesn't go that way. But as soon as they were going to go to the church and they started talking, I'm like, mm-mm. But I wasn't going to tell them no. Like, I can't do that. I just kind of hint and point.
Great moment by Nick by being like, this is the kind of side quest that just gives you XP and no one gets hurt and it's great.
Nick's
Thanks,
optimism was my favorite part.
Appreciate it, Nick.
So let's go on to the next question. This is from
just really quick, John, was Morgan correct of your moment?
Oh yeah, pretty much. As soon as I went outside, I was like, "Oh yeah, no, we're fucked."
We're fucked.
So this one's from Ivor, and we've been sitting on this one because he dropped it in, and we've been waiting. 2-part question. Josh, how did you feel the vampires in the Coffin Maker's shop? How did the vampires in the Coffin Maker's shop make you feel, as you didn't have the cinnamon sticks Deus Ex this time to prevent the characters dying? In parentheses, I almost forgive you for that. What was your take on how things turned out? And we'll ask the second part after you answer.
So how did the vampires in the Coffin Maker's shop make you feel? So yeah, having cinnamon sticks was a big help in the earlier fight. And one major difference between that fight and this fight, and this will probably make people be even more mad at me, the zombie fight that happened the cinnamon sticks died in is not in the book. That is something I put into the story. The graves and buried bodies and the number of people that were there are in the book, and I just turned that into an encounter because I needed Strahd to make a presence, make himself known, and kind of make the characters think, oh, he's watching what I'm doing. And then unfortunately turned into cinnamon sticks dying, and for people who have not heard me explain this 1,000 times, the reason that I used him or her, whatever cinnamon sticks was, as a target was to A, because it was in the way, it's a zombie and the zombie's hungry, and B, it took damage away from the party. Unfortunately, in this one, I don't have that. And it was more so not having that element. I used the fudge rolls as a way to try and get around it. But the fudge rolls that I had was one against Ferguson and one against Roz. So apparently even fudging the rolls didn't really help.
There were like 4 and 18s in a row.
I rolled really well.
He rolled my armor class every single time, and it was
bad. So it made everyone got quiet, including myself during that, because one, these are my friends. I don't want my friends to feel sad, but unfortunately this book is very sad. So from that angle, I felt bad as like a friend hurting my friends. The other thing is I have a story that I want to tell. And at that moment, watching the party die, especially Ferguson, that was a big plant of a story that we started growing. And I mean, Roz was a new character and Morgan was very new. So it was our first character death. That's really rough. But now at the end of that session, I have to rewrite how everything's going to go. So now I just kind of screwed myself for what was going to happen. But looking back on it now, considering how far in we are and kind of looking back, that was one of the best story point elements that we could have possibly had. I love where the story went after that. Was I sad in the moment? Absolutely. And it really sucked. But at the same time, it really built on the story and made Ven and Kent such great characters. And you'll see from here on in, like Ven, you saw his change already start to happen, or their change start to happen. Kent, he goes through some major changes, and I'm excited for you guys.
The times they are a changin'.
Yeah, but that's the first part for me.
So the second part, how did the rest of the cast feel watching this unfold? In hindsight, was there anything each of you feel you could have done differently while staying in character?
Yep.
Let's do this round robin. Bucky, would you like to go first?
I felt like shit.
Okay, could you have done anything
I can
differently?
tell you, I edited out so much silence. So much silence. Like, that joke that Nick had when he jumped out the window and he was like, are you seriously not going to catch me? There was like a solid 20 seconds of silence before I even said anything. Yeah. Because I was literally I was in shock and had no idea what to do.
When we started, we had a lot more jokes, just that probably didn't make it and stuff. But we've gotten pretty punchy about staying on topic and keeping the beats rolling and not really falling.
There was a lot of nervous laughter.
I mean, there was, but we've gotten really good about keeping the flow going. But that one was one of the ones where it was just a lot of staring at things and thinking, is this it? Can I do anything? What tricks do I have up my sleeve?
Yeah, around that time was me trying to figure out who I can get out of there by like suggesting things, because I knew Ven was cool and Kent was probably fine as long as he could get out of that grapple. If you're going to get out of that grapple, Kent was done.
Yeah. Do you feel like you could have done anything differently, Bucky?
I
stayed in
don't-
character. That is a qualifier in this question.
I will say this. I don't think given the circumstances, I don't think that there was anything different that Ven could or would have done. But there were specific decisions that I made for Ven and our scene that I made with specific intent.
Okay. Morgan, how did you feel?
I will repeat the sort of like it felt very much like shock. Like everybody got very quiet, everybody got very tense, and it sucked. It like it's coming, and I was upset. And something that you will find is that when I'm upset during recording, it kind of leaks through. I have a very palpable dismay and like that attitude, kind of that atmosphere kind of leaks through. So I was definitely really upset, but the things that I wish I could have done differently is I wish that I had done my channel divinity differently, so we wouldn't have been all up in their jimmy jams right away. The other thing that I wish I had done is that I completely forgot that I had taken Sanctuary as a spell until I think the day after I was like putting Roz's character sheet away, and I'd made a note card for that, and I like looked at it and I was like, motherfucker. Because that, I don't know if that would have saved me. It might have if they had just rolled really shitty. It would have helped. Yeah. I would have potentially lived longer. I might have been able to escape. So it's weird because I'm very sad about Roz. I was very sad about her in the moment. I was very sad at that time. What happens next for me and for Drew, I think for what ended up happening, it was actually for the best that Roz ended up going, because I think Drew and I do something very cool coming up. So, and I'm sure it would have been very cool if Ken had died, which would have sucked, or Ben, which would have doubly sucked. So I think it was fine. I was a newer character. You guys hadn't had time to get super attached to me. Although I've been very moved by Kat and Kit Kat's appreciation for Roz, and other people in the Discord have been so wonderful.
And also, Wifey is still around.
Wifey's still around, yes.
Won't say what happens.
I was
but
very appreciative of Ven going back and getting the wife. I actually, at like 4:00 in the morning after that session, I texted Josh, I think, and was like, I really like Bucky. He's such a sweet boy. He went back for my shield and he didn't have to.
It's so funny too, because I remember your reaction when I was like, I'm flying back in there. All of you were like, no!
Yeah, and then you got my shield, and I was like, I love one dragon thing.
Just the one.
So yeah, if I could do it differently, I guess in the moment I would cast Sanctuary to try and get it out. Just get out of there. But ultimately, like, we do something really cool in the next couple, like the next arc. So if two party members had to go, I'm happy, Drew, that it was us.
Agreed. I think it's going to lead to some very cool things.
Yeah.
And I'm going to answer that real fast. I felt frustrated because another character was about to die. That was about all I felt. Just because, like, once it started, I was like, well, I'm not getting out of this. I knew what was going to happen, so it was kind of frustration. because when you hit a certain point in a battle and you're like in a D&D fight, and you're like, well, I can't get out of this. I have to play out the end, and it's frustrating to literally take the time and roll when you're like, I'm definitely dead. Like, I can't get out of this.
The only way you could have gotten out of that is if I started to roll real shitty and you rolled real.
Yeah, which probably wasn't going to happen that night. And also, doing anything differently, like, I'm going to be honest, Ferguson would have gone upstairs and fought vampires anyway. He just would have died alone and a lot faster.
Yeah, I mean, it fit your character, man. I will say that was very true to character.
That's what Ferguson does, or did, I guess.
Yeah.
So we have a couple more that are actually, like, really good for this one. I'm going to ask this one, and I'm only going to answer part of it. It's from Pinky Chew. We've been sitting on this one a while. Are you, Drew, ever going to play more than one character, or is Ferguson going to mysteriously disappear if Mikhail is resurrected, or is Mikhail going to bow out because dying and having your mortal soul fight a ghost battle for however long it takes is too much for him? I'm only going to answer the part that, no, Ferguson isn't going to mysteriously disappear. We all now know what happened to him.
Yeah.
The rest, I'm not going to say anything because all this is going to come up. There's stuff in the future. And that's...
Spoilers.
And the next arc is called House of the Rising Spoops. You do with that as you wish.
Exactly. So that's the only part I'm going to answer. I will answer the rest later. This one is from Kazel. And this is the last one that I know that is really geared towards this episode and what happened. Or that we should answer tonight. And Ferguson, what's this whole magic blood dealie? Seems like he cut a deal with a less than friendly sort and always seems to have a new, rather disturbing trick up his sleeve. Well, I just told you all of this deal with Ferguson, and yes, he did cut several deals with several rather nasty things.
Yep.
As a follow-up from Kazel, he had another question which kind of goes with this episode, which is, does anyone have backup characters handy, either fully formed or conceptually, and if you didn't, do you now?
Yeah. So after Roz died, I went into my roommate's room because she's the only one in my apartment that has a printer, and I printed out 6 character sheets, 6 sets. So I definitely made. I did not have a backup character then. I do have like several back burner characters now.
I always have characters in the back burner.
I usually make characters as soon as I find out that a game is coming up because I like to tailor make and be in the mindset to play whatever new character is going to happen. So I never have a backup character.
I have I have a lot of fiddly characters, and I'm like, this is a cool concept. Can I make it work?
I have no backup characters.
It's real.
None.
That's because Bucky writes
Never did.
one
Never will.
novel per character.
No. If I need a character, I need like some quality like thinking time to brainstorm a whole new novella of a new character that's going to be created. So I don't do that unless I have to.
The only character I'm upset is for the next campaign. That's it. That's the only one I have.
So that's the last one that's really related. We have 10 more minutes. Would one of you like to pick a question and ask?
Very quickly, we can answer this right away. Fat Cat asked this. We answered this in the Discord. Yeah. But she's like, wait, y'all work together? Very short. Myself, Bucky, Drew, and Nick all work together in a post-production facility. We won't say which one, but we all work together.
I ain't never seen any of you a day in my life.
Bucky and I have been best friends for half our lives. We became friends back in junior high. And we met, I pulled Bucky into where we work. And then Drew and Nick, we both met at that place of work.
Yeah.
Morgan, I met through Amanda McLaughlin from the Spirits podcast, as well as joined the party. I just met her at a party she was having one day, which is also the same party that Zach's become Strahd. And I became better friends with Julia Sfini as well. She became my deadline buddy. But I met Morgan through that, and then eventually she hopped onto the podcast.
Yep.
All right. Well, Josh just asked one. So, Morgan, Bucky, would you like to pick a question?
You ask.
Morgan doesn't have the sheet open.
All right, final last one.
I see her name. I see her name on this sheet. Do not lie.
No, I opened it. I'm sorry. Hold on. I opened it. The question is, if you could be any fantasy race, which would you be? Bucky would be a dragon.
John said he had a very specific answer for this one. What is it?
If I could be any fantasy character, it would be a functioning member of society with no student loan debt and who had their shit together.
Wow, let's not get real tonight, okay? This is a night of magic and wonderment. Do not drag me into the real world.
Okay, I'd be a dragon, okay? A dragon.
Much-
I'd be a fucking dragon, because dragons are cool as shit.
Much better. All right. We all knew what that was.
God.
Yeah.
Morgan, what about you?
I would be a were hyena.
Yeah, you would.
Josh?
I would probably end up going either probably an elf or a gnome, to be honest. Elves, for the sole reason of they tend to, since they live so long, they can learn a lot of different things. I like to learn. I'm one of those weirdos who misses school, so that kind of environment would fit me really well. And a gnome as well, because I'm also a very short dude. So I like to kind of keep that in the fantasy realm as well. And I also like to tinker. And for people who know me, I used to be a computer IT guy. I was Geek Squad. I used to be at a personal IT place for a while, and I just fixed stuff. So, and code. So those would be the two that would probably fit me.
I don't have an answer prepared. I'm thinking about fantasy races.
You'd be a tabaxi.
I don't think I would be a tabaxi, and I might be offended by that notion that you've had of me.
Well, the reason I suggested was because of just like personality wise. You like to kind of mess with people sometimes, and
all right, fine. I'll go with tabaxi because I don't have a better answer.
I think you'd be a Goliath, because you could just wander off in the woods and it wouldn't make a difference. You could survive pretty
Furbolg.
Or Furbolg.
All right, so
walk off in the woods and be at the scooch.
Scooch.
The scooch.
Bonus answer time. What would Nick?
Oh, actually, I'm gonna be honest. I would be a Sasquatch.
Oh yeah.
Nick. God, what would Nick be?
So Nick would be an Arakakra, just so he can fly all over the place and constantly sing "I'm like a bird" and just everywhere he would go.
That is very much a Nick thing.
That is a Nick thing. I genuinely feel like halfling might be the best race for him, just because he is so inclined to party and dance. And he's lucky.
Bucky or Josh, text him really fast.
I'm doing
okay.
that.
We'll come back to what he actually says. But I agree. I honestly could see him being an actual halfling. Like, I feel like his portrayal of Kent is very much just. I mean, not the misogyny, but the rest of it is very much just like, yeah, it's kind of just Nick, just wandering around being Nick. Bucky, ask us question.
Oh. Yeah, I got a question. This one is from Thirsty. What classes do you prefer not to use, and why do you avoid them?
Ooh. Morgan, would you like to go first?
So I've mostly played paladins and warlocks right now. So I don't know if there's anything that I would avoid. I'm very open to trying pretty much everything. But I do kind of like the characters that get to do a little bit of a mix of melee and spellcasting. So I like locks, I like paladins. So I don't know if I would ever go like true like spellcaster or sorcerer stuff that like stands back.
Makes sense.
Nick responded. He says he would be an air genasi.
You know what? I agree with that. I accept that.
I can see that. Bucky, what classes do you prefer not to use, and why do you avoid them?
So if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have told you wizard, because I always prefer more like physical characters rather than magic characters. I always like playing rogues. Rogues are my favorite class in the game. Monks are super cool. Barbarians, like I like a lot of like characters that are physical and like get in the shit. But now that I've been playing Ozzy for so long, I love Ozzy and I enjoy playing him a lot. I enjoy having all the magic at my disposal and being able to be like, well, maybe I'll use this one, and this one will come in handy here, and that one may be useful here. So now it's
Wizard nerd.
Now it's just free reign. I like them all. Fuck it, I'll play anything. Throw it at me.
Cool. Then Josh, what about you?
Either a fighter or a druid.
Why do you prefer to avoid them?
Well, the druid specifically because the just the whole nature-based magic thing. I love playing wizards and sorcerers and stuff, and like having all that. But the shape shifting is kind of cool, but all the nature-based magic just does not flow with me at all. It just doesn't fit my character, personal character. Fighter because with wizards and sorcerers, I like having the diverse kind of spell casting stuff. And back in the day, like Baldur's Gate 2, the reason I would play those is because it was better graphics. But with fighters, I feel like my options are very limited in the sense of like, this is a martial class. I'm going to hit things, and that is basically all I'm going to do. I know there's a little bit more diversification, especially nowadays, but I want to have the option to do other things.
That's fair. For me, honestly, the answer is Bard only because, and the only reason I prefer to avoid it is because if I play a Bard, I'm literally just going to play myself, and that's not fun at all. And I will be an absolute asshole to everybody. I won't sing or rhyme. I'll just cast spells to make everyone feel bad about themselves.
I mean, I played a bard that only did inspiration via Kanye tweets, so you don't need to rhyme.
I mean, that's true, but I would literally it would just be me. It would just be me out there just being like, guess what? Fuck you.
Cutting words, Drew Tillman style.
Fuck off. But that would be the only one just because, like, I want to play characters that are driven by different motivations, and honestly, I would literally just play a bard as myself. I would just be my personality with actual magic. But not part of the question, I have actually really gotten into rangers, like an actual thing. I really like rangers lately. I'm a little saddened by the 5e rulebook ranger. I feel it's a little underwhelming, but it's still a lot of fun to play.
The UA version of the ranger is definitely a lot better.
I like the UA ranger version, and I like the one that came off of Reddit, which was just like a bunch of people suggested things, and they kind of compiled it. Yeah. And honestly, let me rephrase that. I think the Beastmaster version of the ranger is a little lacking in the player's handbook, just because the beast takes part of your move, and everyone else gets very specific class moves, but the Beastmaster Ranger doesn't.
Yeah.
Whoever marked that one red, I didn't mark it red for a reason.
That was me.
Okay. Mark it a different shade so we know that half the question's not answered.
Okay.
But yeah, I've gotten really into Rangers because I like a lot of the weird things they can do.
Cool.
And also, we joke about it and saying that I'm a Sasquatch, but like I'm very into the nature and the woods and nonsense.
Do we have time for one more quick one?
You know what? Yeah, if you've got a quick one in mind, let's go for it.
If you had to jump into an entirely different genre, I would say like with this crew that's going on right now, which would you choose?
An entirely different genre.
Yeah, that's by a Thirsty. Me personally, actually, I wouldn't even say with this crew. I would say in general, if we were to do a different one, I would consider this like fantasy/horror. I would probably want to do something fun, space-esque.
Space would be cool.
Space would be cool.
Like a Guardian style.
Yeah. I think Kent is uniquely suited for Guardian style shenanigans. Yeah, everybody knows that, or not everybody, but a lot of people know that Mass Effect is one of my favorite games. So I would be into something like that. I'm just going to say for fun, Regency. Get some Jane Austen in this. Let's see us do D&D with all of the like polite societal stuff.
Remind me of that later. Let me talk to Celeste.
Bucky.
Arsene and Quent Noir spinoff.
Okay, so I see you just read the chat.
I didn't read the chat at all.
Arsene and Ken Private Eyes by XLI 1356. Yep.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
Honestly, if I were going to move into a different genre, I would do Mage Punk. I think that would fit all of us, and I would go straight into Mage Punk.
Yep, that certainly would fit us.
But I think that is our time. That is, we've been here an hour. So that has been us. This has been Talking Initiative about episodes 33 and 34, which we're all sad about still, and will be sad about forever. Morgan, you had something you want to add?
No, I was just making sad.
Okay. So let's start our rollout. Bucky, go.
My name is Bucky, and I'm sad.
Okay, you want to plug anything, or you just want to tell people you're sad?
I'll be on Nerd Immersion stream on Monday playing Ozzy.
There's a thing.
So hop over there and watch me play a wizard.
Nice. Josh?
Let's see, bunch of stuff. I'm on Twitter at Zyroxis the Beard.
That's been covered in the chat. You actually don't have to do that anymore.
I'll say it out loud for the audio version.
Okay.
Xiroxis the Beard. Besides that, Bucky and I will be at Gen Con. We'll be there specifically on the Friday and Saturday of Gen Con because of travel purposes. So if you're going to be going, please let us know. Please hop into our Spark Network Discord and chat with us there. Besides that, House of the Rising Spoops will be the next arc. That will be starting on, I believe, 6/11 for public. Yep, 6/11. Keep an eye out on the main stream for people who are not patrons, because starting on Monday will be the release of The Beast, which is our first Meanwhile in Barovia series, DM'd by Mr. Drew Tillman. And with it'll be Bucky, Donna, myself, and special guests, Valanda, Arch from The Lucky Die, both of them, and also Rob from Nerds on a Roll.
That is correct.
I think that is all.
Yeah. Morgan.
So you can find me Thistle Raven at Twitter, and this is the least time I'm gonna be doing Rose's voice for a bit of a time. So it's a real good thing I got good at it at the very end. And for people who are living in New York, the New York primary for your local elections for Congress is June 26th. So please make sure you get registered to vote. You can do it online. You can do it in the mail. Your post office will have voter registration forms. But get aware of your candidates and make a difference.
Yep. And for Nick, since he's not here, I'm going to plug for Nick that everyone should watch. Someone help me out with something Nick's going to like.
Everyone should dance a lot.
Nick says everybody brush your teeth.
Okay,
brush your
there
teeth.
You go. Nick is plugging that everyone has good dental hygiene. It's very important.
Yep.
And I have been Drew Tillman, and I am no longer Drew Tillman after this point. Sorry, everybody. I'm done with
It's not that Drew.
I'm not that Drew anymore. And I'm going to plug, I'm officially going to say that for our patrons, the next episode of Meanwhile in Barovia that I will be DMing starts this month. I will give you an exact date and time once I nail down a couple of specifics that are still floating around. But it will be starting this month, so prepare for that. And I'm also going to plug that everybody should drink water and get 8 hours of sleep tonight, if possible.
Oh, also on Monday, keep an eye out for announcements from us because we'll be announcing some new things.
Yep, there are things coming out. Also, next Friday, please come by and watch Valanda and I review episode 3 of Lost in Space on our new Twitch stream, Couch for It.
Drew, I have a very important question. Do you think the robot is sexy?
I don't. I think he's got weird long arms, and he was sexier when he had 4 arms. Now he's just a sad man in a blue suit.
Forearms?
No, 4 as in the number. Everyone has 4 arms.
It just goes bicep, hand.
As a robot, that seems highly ineffective because he's got really long arms, which seems great. And yeah, we call him Spencer because he's got a Spencer plasma plate as a face.
All right.
Come watch it. We'll rag on it and tell you all the things and our honest opinion about whether or not you should watch it.
And if you missed the previous episodes, you can find them on YouTube, on our Spark Network YouTube channel. And also, it'll be in podcast format the Friday after release, correct?
Yep, the YouTube channel and the podcast format both go up on the Friday after we live stream it. So you could watch it there or listen to it and then come watch us at 8 p.m. Eastern Time every Friday. And yeah, it's pretty great. So that's been us. Good night, everybody. Stay
Good
safe.
night.
Drink water. Get plenty of sleep.
Yes. Moisturize.
Goodbye.